All right, this Friday, there is a fight. And as much as I don't like it, and I'm sure you don't either, we are officially just days away from Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. And while there is pretty much no doubt that this will be an absolute shit show, as we've started to inch closer and closer to the actual fight date, my perspective on this one has actually started to change. And maybe by the end of this video, yours will too. Let's get into it. Okay, so first, as I'm sure you're well aware if you're watching this video, this fight was originally scheduled for back in August, where Mike Tyson had to pull out due to an ulcer, which if you follow combat sports, you would know is not normal, which is probably just further evidence that this is a fight that should not be taking place. And when it comes to evaluating how fit to fight Mike Tyson truly is, everybody's been referring to these pretty insane looking training videos where the guy doesn't just look good for a guy that's 58, almost 60. The guy looks good in general. But one thing you'll notice if you watch a lot of these clips is that there's not a single one that's longer than 3 to 5 seconds, which is probably for a very specific reason. I'm assuming that Mike at his advanced age might not have what it takes to be that explosive for a full round. And don't just take it from me. This fight is also being scheduled with 2-minute rounds, which I'm assuming is because the guy doesn't have what it takes in his gas tank to put up this kind of display for a full fight with 3-minute rounds. But one thing that I think's very much worth mentioning here is that Jake Paul is no world beater. Of course, it wasn't that long ago where he lost to Tommy Fury, a guy who was lauded in the boxing community for not being very good of a professional boxer, beating guys with records like 10 and 100. And when you watch back that fight, other than the knockdown, which was a bit of a slip, but at the end of the day, it was a knockdown. He got knocked down. Tommy had a very easy time beating Jake, walking right through his power punches and applying pressure to him. Tommy was able to just walk kind of right through Jake's big overhand right, the big scary punch that people keep talking about, and take it to him, put pressure on him. And Jake was just not able to handle that kind of pressure. And look, me, myself, I am no professional boxer by any means, but I have spent time sparring, and I can tell you from experience, being swarmed with pressure takes a lot of getting used to. And Jake's about to go into a fight where he's not just going to get swarmed with a lot of pressure. He's going to get swarmed with a lot of pressure from one of the most intense boxers that has ever walked the planet, even if he is almost 60 years old. And when we talk about how easy Tommy Fury was able to just outbox Jake Paul, that fight was very reminiscent of another fight that Tommy Fury had against a very green boxer by the name of Jordan Grant, who at the time had a full-time job and was training when he got back home from work. So just so we know that we're talking about when we talk about Jake Paul's actual skill level when it comes to boxing. And when we talk about Jake Paul's ability or inability to handle pressure coming towards him, one of the big reasons that Tyron Woodley was able to have some level of success against Jake was because he was ready, willing, and able to at times apply pressure. Now, yes, we all know Tyron Woodley ended up being more of the frozen one than the chosen one, not throwing enough punches, but let's make no mistake about it. He lost this fight because of not throwing enough, not because he wasn't good enough at applying pressure, not because he didn't hit hard, but just because at the end of the day, the guy's not a boxer. That's why. Now, I am not saying Mike Tyson's going to go in there, turn back the clock, and look like the young 20-year-old undisputed heavyweight champion. But luckily, he doesn't have to do that to still go in there and put on a show. And when I say put on a show, I mean that very deliberately. I'm expecting Mike Tyson to go in there and put on a show. Not necessarily win or knock out Jake Paul, but to make the fight interesting and to make it entertaining. Because at the end of the day, this is not a fight. This is an exhibition. It's a show. And maybe more importantly, this is Netflix's first opportunity to show what kind of show, what kind of spectacle they can put on in the live sports space. And I do think very similarly to the Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones exhibition, there's a good chance that there's some level of a gentleman's agreement here where both guys will go out there, make it competitive, put on a show, but they won't overextend. They won't make this anything more than it needs to be, which is an event that's going to be fun for the fans. Or at the very least, that's what I'm hoping for. And for those people out there that I keep seeing saying that Mike's going to go out there and absolutely destroy Jake, I think anyone with that mindset should take some time to go back and watch the last 1 or 2 fights of Mike Tyson's actual professional career, where Mike was about 20 years younger, actually still a professional fighter, and ended up getting hurt, dropped, and ultimately stopped by guys that were 100% not on the level to compete with Mike in his prime. And I'm not saying that to say that the Mike Tyson that we once saw in the boxing ring is no longer here. I'm saying it to say that the Mike Tyson that used to exist stopped existing 20 years ago, let alone right now. So this guy that you see on the ground right here, he's now almost 60, and he's gonna try to do this exact same thing again. Final prediction, I think we'll get a fun fight where someone at some point of this will get hurt, probably, hopefully, to the body. But I think at the end of the day, when this is all said and done, no one's gonna get knocked out. Both of these guys are gonna get their hands raised in the air because this is an exhibition. Jake's gonna give his speech about how great Mike Tyson is, and Mike Tyson's gonna get the mic and do the exact same thing, giving Jake his flowers for putting on such a big event. They'll both end up making a shit ton of money, and they'll both go back home safely to their family. Oh, actually, I'm looking it up right now, and apparently this is not an exhibition. This is an officially sanctioned fight. So God help us all. Thanks for watching.